I'm preaching to somebody today. You're getting bitter in the wilderness. You are allowing the isolation of this season to dominate your mind. You keep focusing on who left you, but how about the God who kept you? It might not be fair, but God has favor that is bigger than unfair. Stop being so insecure about it. God will keep you alive. God will bring you into your promise. God will bring you into your destiny. I dare you to let a person get in the way of what God promised you. No person can prevent what God has truly promised. No person can prevent what God has truly promised. People can definitely mess with your mind. People can definitely push your buttons, but they cannot prevent a promise. If people could prevent a promise, God would not have sent 10 plagues to tell Pharaoh, when I say let my people go, when I stretch forth my mighty hand. And I came to preach to somebody today. It's bigger than them. The God that you serve is bigger than them. You don't have to get in this blame game. More people have been blocked from blessings by blame than any other contributing factor I can name. In fact, at one point in my life, I was praying. I was saying, God, I need a breakthrough in this area. I need a breakthrough in this area. I need a breakthrough. But while I was praying for breakthrough, I was also blaming somebody. And the Lord spoke so clearly to me, you cannot claim breakthrough if you cling to blame. Not at the same time. Because think about it, church. Think about what Caleb could have said. Think about what Caleb would have said if he had not believed that God's purpose prevails. If he had not believed that God could still do it. If he had not believed that no weapon formed against me can prosper. That if he had not believed that God brought me to this point not to leave me. Look what he said. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now, you can call it bragging if you want to. But when I heard Caleb say that, I saw something different. He said, verse 8, my fellow Israelites, they made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed my God. He's saying, in a sense, what I have been through can't stop God from blessing me. And what others didn't do can't stop God from blessing me. Because I'm going to tell you two things you can't control. Ready? Write them down. The future and others. Neither one of those are in your control. But your decision to live by conviction in this season of your life. Who am I talking to? Your decision to say, it is not going to get in me. Because if Caleb had lived through that wilderness experience, 38 years in the wilderness, 7 years of conquest for the promised land. He said, I was 40 years old, verse 7, when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me to explore the land. And I brought him back a report according to my convictions, but it died by committee. All of those spies died of a plague. All of those people over 20 died in the wilderness, but not Caleb. Look what he said. My fellow Israelites made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. That's powerful. And then verse 10, now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years. 38 in the wilderness, 8 of taking the promised land, or 7 of taking the promised land, and still a mountain on his mind. All the time he was moving through the wilderness, his mind was on his mountain. How do you keep your mountain on your mind when you are surrounded by wilderness conditions? How do you keep a better tomorrow on your mind when all you can feel is the pressure of today? I thought what Caleb said was cocky, but then I realized what he could have said. Now let's say that he was like you and me sometimes, and he said, now then, the Lord, verse 10, has made me wait for 45 years. He could have said that, but he didn't see it that way. What a perspective when a person just decides that I trust that God is sovereign over my life. And that includes the timing. That includes what he allows others to do. That includes what he allows others not to do. That includes who shows up in my life. That includes who leaves my life. That includes the skills I have, the skills I don't have. Stop being so insecure about it. God will keep you alive. God will bring you into your promise. God will bring you into your destiny. God will open a door no man can shut and shut doors that nobody can open. Because Caleb said, God kept me alive. Now, he could have complained. He could have been bitter about it. That's the second thing I want to talk to you about. Imagine if Caleb had gone through the wilderness for 38 years, replaying all of the bad decisions that others made that put him in this place. Imagine if Caleb had gone through the wilderness just getting more and more bitter. He would have never been able to say what he said in verse 11. I'm still strong. And see, the reason he was still strong enough for what God had next for him was because of what he said to himself when he was in the wilderness. And because he did not get bitter in the wilderness, I'm preaching to somebody today, you're getting bitter in the wilderness. You are allowing the isolation of this season to dominate your mind. I don't know who you are, but I see you just walking around the wilderness and you keep blaming people and you keep getting bitter about people. And every day that goes by, you're getting more and more mad about them. I wouldn't be in this debt if it wasn't for them. I wouldn't be in this dungeon if it wasn't for them. I wouldn't even be in this situation if it wasn't for them. But I came with a reminder that this is bigger than them. I said, this is bigger than them. 3 people give him praise. This is bigger than them. 30 people give him praise. This is bigger than them. And for every them that you could blame, I know a hymn you could praise if you decided to today. Because the other way to say it is, he kept me alive 45 years. He kept me and led me through a very thirsty place. He kept me. High five your neighbor, say, he kept me. He kept me. I went through some barren places, but he kept me. There was no water, but he made it come out of a rock. He kept me. There was no way, but he made a way. He kept me. I was walking through a wilderness, but my shoes never wore out. My clothes never wore out. He kept me. He kept me. He kept me. He kept me. And you keep focusing on who left you. But how about the God who kept you through the night, who kept you through the trial, who kept you through the adversity? I'm preaching too hard. I'm preaching to try to get you to see that if God is for you, who can be against you? This is bigger than them. But the biggest battle that Caleb won was not against the enemies that inhabited Canaan. It was against the bitterness that could have inhabited him. It's the bitterness that blocks your blessing. It's the bitterness that blocks your creativity. It's feeling unappreciated. It's that wasn't fair. It might not be fair, but God has favor that is bigger than unfair. So the favor of God will cancel out what was unfair. This is bigger than them. This is bigger than what they could give you. This is bigger than what you could predict. This is bigger than how you could map out your life. But if the bitterness had gotten into Caleb, the blessing would have never happened. So you have to choose now, bitterness or blessing. Because the Bible says in verse 13, then Joshua blessed Caleb. And he gave him the mountain. And he gave him the inheritance. And it would not be investment free, but it was his. But we would never get to then if he had become bitter because of them. There are seasons in your life where your insecurity has caused you to invent enemies that did not exist. That was the whole reason Moses never got to go into the promised land, because he was more focused on them than him. And that is the whole reason you keep giving your purity away to somebody, some pervert that's beneath you, because your focus is on them, not him. Who cares what they say? They didn't make me. They don't have the final say. And I will move it away from a temptation aspect and ask you the question, why do you keep inventing enemies? Because you will not deal with the insecurity. The whole reason Moses could not go into the promised land was because of his insecurity. Do you remember the first thing he said to God? Who am I that I should go? It doesn't matter who you are. It matters who he is and what he's given you to do. This is bigger than him. Everybody who's raising a child and you don't feel like you know what you're doing, wave at me. Okay, it's God's kid before it's your kid. So this is bigger than them. This is bigger than them. This is bigger than you. This is bigger than both of you all put together. God wants you to trust him. How many of you are moving into a season of your life where you have never felt more uncertain about your own competence? Do not miss getting your grapes because you see yourself as a grasshopper. I take this reference directly from Numbers chapter 13. When the people of God could have gone into the land, they were carrying grapes on their shoulder. Big grapes, cluster of grapes. Took two of them to carry one pole. I believe it was Joshua and Caleb. I believe that's why Caleb came back to his grape carrying partner when he said, it's time. I survived the wilderness, and it's time. I didn't die in the desert, and it's time. I'm still ready. I'm still strong. I didn't get bitter. And Caleb comes to Joshua and says, it's time for me to be blessed. But you know, they could have had the same blessing a generation earlier. If they had seen themselves correctly, if they had seen themselves as blessed, they would have realized that there is no battle that is too big for God. But instead they said in verse 31, we can't attack those people. We can't attack them. They are stronger than we are. Go back one verse before, please. Oh, you're gonna love this. Caleb silenced the people. Then Caleb silenced the people. Then 45 years earlier, he silenced the people and he said, we should go up and take possession of the land. We can certainly do it. But the people said, we can't attack those people. They're stronger than we are. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there, they're big. They're of great size. Verse 33, we saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes. And we looked the same to them. But what you fail to realize, man, is this is bigger than them. God promised you that land. God promised you freedom. God promised you tomorrow. God promised you a hope in a future. God promised you to break the generational curse. God promised you total freedom. God promised you righteousness. God promised you peace. God promised you joy in the Holy Spirit. And I came with a reminder today that this is bigger than them. This is bigger than them. And if you can make it through this wilderness season of your life and not get bitter and not be insecure about what you don't have, God can take somebody who feels like a grasshopper and feed them something that looks like a grape. Now, I'm telling you what I know about, because every time I've done something in this church that seemed unusual, there was always somebody who said I couldn't do it. But it wasn't up to them, because it's bigger than them. This is bigger than them. Now I'm coming up here for a reason, because there are so many people in this church who do not look alike. In fact, there are people in this church who, if they ever talk to one another, they get in a fist fight. That's all right. There are people in this church whose backgrounds are so different. Any educational background you want to mention is in this church. There are doctors in this church who hear every word that I mispronounce. People with PhDs, and my grammar drives them crazy, but they come anyway. There are people in this church who can't even read, but they come to church and God speaks to them anyway, because God is bigger than a reading disability. Now I'm trying to tell you something. When I started this church, I said, I want to have a church that is non-traditional, but we preach the word. And there was somebody who said, you can't do both. You can't reach lost people and preach the word. I already preached half the Bible today, and I didn't see anybody walk out. And there are some people in here who already know the story, and some people who never heard it. But see, God is bigger than them. There have been people through the years that criticized us for being a church that would dare, watch this, dare to not make political statements, but be more oriented around the cross of Christ than by a cultural position that is already so prevalent that it's dividing this country right down the middle. But this is bigger than them, because God did not call me to reach one subset of people. That's what I'm trying to say. This is bigger than them. One pastor took me out to lunch when I was first getting started. I said, what would really be in my heart is to have a church that is incredibly diverse. He said, what do you mean diverse? Do you mean like black people and white people together? I said, yeah. He said, you better not go to Charlotte if you want to start a church like that, because Charlotte is too divided for a church like that. If you wanted a church that had black people and white people and people from all different backgrounds, there is no way that you can break through racism in Charlotte. I don't care how good your heart is. I don't care how much you pray. I've tried it before. I've been a pastor for 30 years, and they were telling me that it couldn't happen, but this is bigger than them, because if you look around you today, you will see very different types of people. And I just want to remind you, if God puts something in your heart and they said it could never happen, you go on in, Caleb. You go on in, 85 years old. You go on in with a cane. You go on in with a suspended driver's license. You go on in on your second marriage. You go on in and do what God called you to do. Because this, high five 15 people, say this is bigger than them. I tell myself when I preach, these cameras are putting me out all over the world. Now I'm back where they don't have any cameras. But I'm telling you that this service is going out beyond this room, because when God speaks, it has no limit. When God speaks, it has no border. I don't care how they diagnose you. God's destiny does not consult man's diagnosis. This is bigger than them. This is bigger than them. This is bigger than fear. This is bigger than my past. This is bigger than shame. This is bigger than the naysayer. This is bigger than the critic. It's bigger than them. I dare you to let a person get in the way of what God promised you. This is bigger than them. God said to Caleb, because you made a decision not to be defined by an event. Verse 9, Joshua 14. This land where you put your feet is bigger than you. It will be your inheritance and that of your children forever. And what we can never understand, oh, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. But when you are in the middle of it, then you don't know what's on the other side of it. And there are no blessings that don't come with battles, but I promise you that this battle that you're fighting right now, there is a blessing on the other side of it. Jesus said, pour you out a blessing that you won't have room enough to receive. What did he say? Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Because this is going to be bigger than your capacity. So you got to grow your faith right now. What if God meets the need another way? This is bigger than that.
Hey, thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel. I hope you were blessed today. If you were, share this with somebody. Like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from, what we can pray for you about. Hope to see you back here again really soon.